Hi guys, this is Breaker, and today I found another replay on the front page of drop.sc. This is going to be a part of my warm-up cast for today, because later on I'm going to be casting for the Ritmix Russia StarCraft League. It's not going to be in English, rather, but it's going to be in Chinese, and the thing is I'm just trying to test my alertness. Hang on just a moment, and let me pull up the download page for that. Well, that's not important. I'm just going to go ahead and get into the replay. Alright, so here we go. Alright, so the upper left-hand corner, spawning as our red toss. He used to belong to Root, now he belongs to XMG. Just not too familiar with the clan, as I feel perhaps it is a little bit new. His name is ToD. Very fine WCS contender as well. Lower right-hand corner, spawning as our Zerg in the blue trunks, excuse me, he's just a barcode. And from now on, I'm just going to refer to him as such, barcode. Now, hold on just a moment. It looks like I'm logged into Facebook, so I'm just going to go ahead and Alt-Tab and try and get out of that for the time being. Hang on just a moment. Alright, so there's nothing too terribly important in the way of interaction on Facebook right now. I apologize for that little hiccup, guys. The map we're on today is going to be Akalon Wastes. It is, I want to say, in ZVP, it can be somewhat cutthroat. But of course, we're talking about the rock tower here, can be taken down. I've actually seen TSL Symbol versus... No, wait, it wasn't TSL Symbol. It was Symbol, I just forget which team he belongs to now. He took down this rock tower while he was playing against Invictus Gaming's Max Said. Now, of course, I do want you to remember that Max Said is equal to a Code A GSL competitor, while TSL Symbol himself has made it into Code S multiple times. He took down these rocks, and what happened was this basically kept the probe from getting in there and getting an expo down in a much faster fashion, if you will. And so far from our Zerg player, we have a bit of a standard opener. He's not going to go ahead and send out a drone scout. I always send out a drone scout because I love that feeling of safety and security of just knowing what my opponent is going to go for. Now, ToD is doing a rather brave opener. He went for a Nexus first, as you can see here. And he's going to go ahead and send out a probe. Will this be his undoing, however, because we do have a spawning pool kind of finishing up for the time being. My curiosity is just, what are we going to see our barcode do? Is he going to make a pair of lings immediately after it's finished? He is saving larva for something. Or money in general. Okay, so you went ahead and made a queen and one pair of lings. No overcommitment to that whatsoever. ToD goes in there, he sees that this is the just right timing to send out a probe to figure out whether your opponent is going for a double hatch or a spawning pool first opener. And now it looks like he's been alerted to the fact that it's a spawning pool first. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, getting into Masters League and getting into GM. I myself have never done it, but oh, I'm sorry. Hold on just a second. I forgot to bring up the Forge. Yeah, he did go ahead and throw that down, but I guess the only way this really works against him is the fact that the lings are all the way over here, chasing a probe and not really getting into the natural right now. This is actually working just for him a little bit. I don't know, I feel like Casted is going a little bit empty these days, guys. If you're watching this if you guys are watching this VOD on YouTube, I simply request that you guys pay a visit to the Reddit section known as Casted. It's a subsection of StarCraft 2 on Reddit. Basically what you do is you just send a bunch of replays, or just one or two replays of games that you thought were absolutely epic that somebody should cast. And someone will come along and cast it. Whether it be me or I Big and Scary. I think I Big and Scary has a nice voice for casting, but myself, like, I think the only reason why my voice sounds a little more deep than normal is simply given the fact that I just woke up, and that's like morning frog voice, if that makes sense. I think we all know what I'm talking about, right? Alright, so now ToD is sending out another probe. He wants to get a look at just what his opponent is doing. He's actually doing this quite well. As long as that probe gets into the main, I think he's doing a good job with it. He's going to see that there's probably not going to be anything too terribly important in the way of tech, but of course there's 6 lings to come out and shut down that probe just as it's about to spot the... Oh, wait, I don't think he saw that. I don't think he did. Let's figure that out. Oh, he did. He did. That was so close, though. I mean, he didn't even see the surrounding 4 creep squares, if you will. Okay, so here we go. Now the Lings are trying to get out here. And it looks like we finally... I don't know, I think this is a bit of an overt defensive move. Or, not move, but move, rather, by ToD. I don't blame him for it, as it does allow him to get this pile of rocks taken down faster, with just the cost of 150 minerals. And besides that, if it really comes down to it, it'll mean more in the way of defenses. Now, ToD is also going for +1 attack behind this, so it could possibly be some kind of a forward pressure into the 3rd expo. That's the way I'm reading it right now. He's got 4 gates. So this is looking like it's going to be a 4-gate expand. He's got a Robo Bay. So that tells me that perhaps we're going to see him go straight into Colossi. Who knows? He could actually pull the unit composition versus Stefano that he tried at DreamHack recently. Meanwhile, our Zerg is just now getting the layer tech finished up. He's going to go ahead and get a hatchery, a macro hatch at the natural. Excuse me, at the main. Now we have a Twilight Council going down behind us for ToD, so I'm thinking this could be a +1 Link Stalker harassment movement while he gets his own fourth up and running. This is actually rather clever. Ooh, wow. Wait a minute, look at the timing of this. Oh my god. ToD, you are doing something sexy that I don't think any other Protoss would have thought of, but you ruined it, bro. You ruined it. You just ruined it. You didn't want to actually kill it. See, well, I guess the Zergling, if the Zergling didn't get that scouting information, then it basically wouldn't have been that much different. Because the Overseer went in and saw the Observer, or the Robo going down. But again, that was just, I was thinking to myself, oh my god, ToD's actually going to get the rocks to break down here at the same time that these rocks are going to fall down. It's like, is this some kind of a specially devised rock attack timing? Alright, so now both players are kind of fully macroed up, sort of. I say sort of simply due to the fact that we are missing a few probes in this 3rd because it hasn't finished up yet. And I'm thinking that ToD's saturation is more than adequate so that when he's finished, he'll be able to pull the probes and put it on there. I'm thinking that's when we're going to see an attack. Both players are actually going for building armies right now. We see a lot of roaches from our Zerg barcode, as well as Glio Reconstitution and +1 missile attacks going down. Meanwhile, we got +2 going down for ToD, +1 armor, Blink, and Immortals are on the way. Now, the unit interaction that we should see is, of course, the Stalkers kind of maybe taking just a teeny bit more than the Immortals all together in this composition. Because, of course, they'll be able to blink, but again, this is just going to depend on how the engagement goes, whether or not something else special goes down, but this is pretty big. We're going to have Hydra thrown into the mix. The creep spread for our barcode player is also rather substantial. Look at this. All the way halfway, already halfway across the map. He's going to go ahead and pull that Observer Yad out on top of the creep, back here with his main army. This is kind of a small force given what we have so far, and seeing what he's going up against, that's 44 supply versus 96 combat supply. Combat supply includes queens, guys, but, I mean, if we subtract maybe 8 supplies, then that's still 105 supply. A good deal of that is still in production, and it's popping in the form of Lings right now, as I say that. Hydra's just popped in large numbers as well. Changeling gets sniped off of that tower, and now we see ToD, I feel, in a lot of trouble. Again, the longer this goes on, the harder it's going to be for ToD, but how did our Zerg find out about that pylon? Oh, it's alright. I guess that's just epic scouting, and it really works, I feel. And ToD went ahead and did the same thing over here, too, so he still has vision of his opponent moving out one way or another. And it looks like ToD's going to go ahead and go for his 4th instead of trying to move out on creep. He didn't get good vibes from any of this, I think. Now, the one thing that he can do, and I was just about to say this, is that he can get Colossus in the mix, and he's going to go ahead and do that right now. Excuse me. Sending a Scouting Phoenix in, and when he did move out close to creep, he basically signaled to his Zerg opponent, okay, well, it looks like you're going to have to go ahead and start making army, and that's exactly what he did. +3 attack and +2 armor now on the way for Protoss units. Right now, I want to say that the unit composition we have is not the best for dealing with Zerglings en masse, but it's okay, the Zerglings are not fully upgraded. So, superficially speaking, the best that the Zerglings can actually help to do here is get us around and then force the Stalkers to burn a blink. Again, this is somewhat reminiscent of the classic Wings of Liberty style. We have 4 mortals here as well, versus this many Hydras. I think if we were to see ToD just directly with this, it wouldn't be good. And he knows it. So he's trying to think 2 steps ahead of his opponent. He's getting the Colossi out. But how's he going to follow this up? Here we go. Oil gets pulled into the mix. He's like, yeah, you're going to leave my Stalker bros alone. Upgrades are far more superior for our Protoss, and they will be in the near future as well. That's going to make a huge difference in engagements. It's something I've seen in production for a long time now, and not really brought up, is the fact that we have swarm hosts coming into the mix as well. Enduring Locusts have already been researched, but right now, I guess we're just waiting for the Locust numbers, the swarm host numbers to pick up just a little bit. This is kind of interesting. Okay. I thought maybe our Zerg would have had vision of that, but he apparently doesn't. I mean, creep is surrounding it, but he doesn't have vision of that pylon, so this will be good for perhaps DTs warping in the late game. Well, speaking of late game, we're about to get there anyway. +3 is finishing, +2 is already finished. Here we go. Oh man, that's 6-6 around, and this is, I think, just going to get increasingly worse for ToD if he continues to directly engage. But I've been wrong about this before. I mean, ToD versus Stefano, he went absolutely, again, Colossi-less in all of this. So here we go. We got more and more Locusts getting thrown into the mix, more and more Swarm Hosts getting thrown into the mix. We're getting 11 of them in production. It looks like we've got about 8, 9 here on the battlefield. And now we're going to have ToD snipe this base and try and get out. I think you could actually throw down some force fields and then get out of there validly speaking. He does have a Mothership Core with his main army, but boy, I was about to say, were we gonna see something cute like a Stalker just blink over here and one-shot that hatchery? I know we've seen a lot of Koreans do that at tournaments every now and then. It makes the entire audience laugh because you're pulling back your main army, but you blink that one Stalker back to snipe this or that tech. But now we have High Templars coming to the mix, Zealot legs as well, +1 shields, +3 armor, and another Robo facility on the way to, I guess, perhaps facilitate the Colossi count. But again, once we get to that super late game like we are right now, I think it's going to come down entirely to Swarm Host count, Locust count, excuse me, not Swarm Host count, but, jeez, Corruptor count as well as Viper count, because Vipers are actually good at sniping a lot of units, contrary to popular belief. And this is absolutely beautiful control from our Zerg player as well. Like, he realizes, okay, well, I can't chase this army too much, so I'm going to make my Swarm Hosts do it. And then he pulls back the most valuable units he has, and that would be presently his Hydras. They are really expensive. They also have extremely high DPS. Some of the highest in the game of Wings of Liberty. I'm not sure about Heart of the Swarm. And behind this, ToD is boldly taking this base. He's going to go ahead and throw down a pylon over here, it looks like. And I'm thinking maybe... Oh, he tried to make something happen with a War Prism. It didn't really pan out for him. Corruptors got onto it. Both players at 200 armies. It's just that they're looking for engagement points. They're looking for ways to fight each other. There we go. And ToD's just kind of directly engaging into this. He doesn't want to do that. And... Oh, wait a minute. That's just absolutely brilliant. He threw down a hallucinated Colossus, and it's looking like the unit's trying to get a pulse around here, but this is actually working against our blue Zerg player. The Hydra's getting totally eliminated here, and now we actually see that the Swarm Hosts come to save the day. But again, we see ToD starving his opponent. This is essentially how he beat Stefano on the same exact map at DreamHack. Oh! At the most recent DreamHack Summer 2013. My god, it was quite a game to watch, but the main difference was that he didn't have Colossi thrown into the mix. So now we have +2 upgrades of all kinds and sorts coming across for our Zerg player. I think we're going to see mostly Corruptors here, I think this is not a bad choice. But what about the tier 3 tech units? You know, we should be seeing Vipers thrown into the mix as well. They would be completely invaluable for sniping the most expensive units in the mix. In this case, it would be the Immortals and the Colossi. I say the Immortals just a little bit because there is, of course, that small chance that they could get pulled onto these Swarmhosts. And the Swarmhosts are actually, oh, they're caught out of position, but I don't think we have any detection here to really take them down. No, wait. These Creep Tumors were taken down, and the Observer's right there, just as I say it. One thing that this did do that was extremely valuable for ToD was that it basically it forced a volley of wasted Locusts from our Zerg. And now I think we're going to see a lot of static defenses go down here, of course. How else can you deal with this, really? There's a bunch of Zealots doing a run by there. A bunch of Blink Stalkers coming over here, and they are 3-2-3. Now Dark Shrine finally coming into play. This will be extremely invaluable in the fact that it will allow ToD to essentially get cheaper DTs out. If you guys look at the bank that he's building now at 200-200, it's mostly gas and minerals. So what we can see is that he could spend 125 in terms of gas and minerals to try and get more Archons into the mix. And now we have ToD. He's opting for control of the map. That's one thing that is good about his aggressive style right now. That's really working in his favor. But +2 air is finishing up for our Zerg, and I'm curious. Wait, he's got a greater stride. That means he's going to try and go with Broodlords eventually. We don't have any in production presently, but that doesn't mean I didn't miss anything. Wait a minute, what is this? Another Warp Prism trying to make a flyby, I guess you could say, into the main. That is a lot of Corruptors. My thinking is that our Zerg player is going to try and deal out a lot of damage, maybe destroy the main army, or try to come close to it, and then finally morph what he's got into Broodlords. You guys will have to remember that this is, of course, not the Wings of Liberty meta, where it comes down to the Mothership of the Vortex and the Archons getting into the toilet or not. Oh, wait. This many Arg! It's almost... I don't know, is ToD willing to throw away that kind of supply? I think it's not a bad thing. He did kind of face it up straight up, but of course he could always just micro those Colossi back one at a time to really save them in an engagement if it came down to it. Now, Infestor, Swarmhost, Corruptor. Oddly enough, I see nothing wrong with this composition, except for the fact that we are missing Swarmhosts. Swarmhosts are excuse me, not Swarmhosts, but rather Vipers. Vipers are completely invaluable in the fact that, in the essence, that they will allow a player to pull whatever he wants, whenever he wants. And now, oh my god, the beautiful fungos are going down. Now we have feedbacks going down left and right. This looks like it's going to be a definitive engagement in favor of ToD. The Storm's going down on top of all those Swarmhosts. Not Swarmhosts, but rather Locusts. And it's looking like it costed him 2 Colossus and a lot of ground forces. Both players heavily even in numbers. Fungal growths are just absolutely astounding on all of those Blink Stalkers. And ToD is again going to come up here and snipe. But meanwhile, we actually have a huge run-by of Protoss Gateway units, including a DT that's going to get the Roach Warren. The Roach Warren not too important at this stage of the game, but every other piece of tech is completely invaluable, priceless to that of our Zerg. It looks like, oh no, oh no, I'm sorry. I actually thought that's where the Spires were, the dual Spires. But what about that? Okay, that was just a hatch. There's only one mineral patch left. It's not too terribly important, and it's looking like we still got the DT going and pecking away at these Locusts. There's no fungal growth left on these Infestors. And behind this, both players building their banks. For our Zerg, it's more minerals than it is gas, as it typically is. And I think we're going to see ToD kind of offensively assert himself right here. This is, I think, I can see kind of what ToD's trying to do, but he's also trying to get a good deal of Colossi into the mix. He needs 3 of them at the very least. In the words of Suppy, when you have a lot of Swarm Hosts and the Colossi numbers start to surpass 1, 2, 3, then, especially 3 being the magic number, then it just seems like Locusts don't really cut it. Now we have ToD racing around here with a Warp Prism. I'm a little curious, do we see any reactions on the minimap here from our Zerg It looks like not, so we're going to have ToD kind of get away with some harass here. He's got a lot to throw away in terms of bank. Corruptor's getting pulled back right now at the last second. It looks like somehow he caught on to that. Of course, there's the entire lower right-hand corner of this map is nothing but blue Zerg, so who can really blame him? There we go. Archon's kind of racing forward, tanking for all of those swarm hosts. Now we have hallucinated Archons coming through the mix as well. And no really valuable units were actually used in all of that just now for ToD. Double Warp Prism now on the way for ToD. I'm wondering if this is a mistake. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised to see that it is not, considering there's just so much more that he can do. I guess he can do, you know, double Warp Prism drops and harass will be very good because, of course, we're going to see our Zergs micro get taxed. But speaking of, holy hell, this engagement, ladies and gentlemen, we see ToD. It looks like he's going to be forced to power through, and finally we see some Vipers in the mix, but we don't have any more. We don't have any of Ducks presently. It's because these Vipers don't have enough energy to cast them. Perhaps he does. This is not wanting to show it. Yes, he does. He's got enough energy. I'm sorry. Let me go ahead. I just hit Control Shift A. That's all I did. Now, we do have double War Prisms going down here, and I'm thinking, here we go. The Corruptors are going to get pulled back, but they are going to do two different destinations. One's going to be, it looks like, shot down immediately as it enters the natural. And this guy's not going to get any valuable weapons, unfortunately. It's just, I don't know. It's just so aggressive. It's hard to say. And that poor Zealot, that poor hero Zealot trying to take the Zelnaga Watchtower, unfortunately gets taken down by a good deal of those swarm hosts, but I'm wondering what kind of vision our Zerg has. He doesn't know about that base, amazingly enough, at 12 o'clock. Now we have ToD opting to go into the late game. I think this is a dangerous choice, considering he's already seen that his opponent has both Vipers and Corruptors. Broodlord's now entering the mix as well, interestingly enough. DT, unfortunately, forces a cancel on that third. Should be on that, on that upper right. And the lower left here. What happened here? That I missed. Jeez. Just a moment ago, something exploded. Overlord does, of course, have clear vision of this area of the map. And I'm a little curious to see just what kind of a reaction we might see from our Zerg. Now we see ToD is actually getting eaten alive. I'm thinking this next wave of locusts will actually be able to take that base down, but it's looking like he's going to change his mind for the time being and go straight for the main army of ToD right here. Fungal growth's beautiful, and I never would have thought Zerg would be OP in this essence. Look at this. Archon's getting pulled two at a time. It's not a good idea to pull a whole chunk of them at the same time. I've seen Idra do that, and he ended up losing the game because of it. Yeah. So it had rather the same effect as the Archon Toilet. And wait. Okay, so basically what's going to happen is our Zerg is now going to be aware of the fact that these heavy units are entering the mix, and now it's looking like we're going to see possibly our Zerg is now going to go for this base that ToD has. He did rebuild the photon cannon, so that's gonna get him another wave. But wow, look at this! ToD just powering through everything right here. It's like, okay, it's time for me to end you now, because if I drag this out any longer, it's just gonna cost me the game. So there we go. The Broodlord's getting targeted down one at a time. The Colossi are now non-existent. Both players coming astoundingly even in supply, and it looks like these. I don't know what to place it as, but it's looking like ToD is getting torn down and apart right now. There's no other way to say it. He's at 101 supply as opposed to his opponent's 143. His income is higher than that of his Zerg opponent, so it's looking like he should slowly but surely definitely have the economy to deal with this. And now we see ToD. He's doing a good job of denying economy for his opponent. He really is, but we have to see him be ready to go onto the offensive right now. Again, he's got a huge bank. He's got more bank than his opponent does at this stage. This is what a 30-minute game looks like, ladies and gentlemen. This is not what a mid-stage game looks like. And now we're going from, since we're at the 30-minute mark, the late game to the late game.
late game because basically both players have every attack upgrade imaginable. And there it is, but I think this could end up being ToD's death knell. If he loses this base, then I don't see him holding on much longer than he is already. And typically what he's done to pull his opponent away from that base before was he would start attacking his opponent's other bases. But behind this, he's going to kind of stay even on bases the way he is now. What he's doing is he's taking his like 6 o'clock-ish position base here. Probes have been pulled from it. He did lose a few there. Amazingly enough, neither player really actually going for a good deal of harass at this stage of the game. I mean, we have seen ToD surely try to do more prism run-bys, things of that nature, but it just, you know, didn't quite pan out for him. And these spine crawlers, this micro from our Barcode player, I want to say this guy, I've only seen... This, oddly enough, reminds me of... I don't know, that spine crawler micro. It reminds me of a player who competed in the ASL. He was a member of Prime. It was not Boom Boom. God, his name is right on the tip of my tongue, but I forget. I think it was Senior Prime. Anyway, we get the big engagement here, and now we have the Foremost taking and dealing out damage on all these Archons. And ToD is actually ahead in supply right now, but I don't think that's in the way of Army. No, he's actually lower down on Army supply than his opponent. Throwing down feedbacks and storms everywhere. ToD is just powering through this like a boss! And now we see the Broodlords in back here trying to take down the Archons. They are doing a good job of kind of blocking them off, but at the same time, it's not doing enough damage. ToD is, I don't know, he's going to be forced to back off for the time being. He tried so hard, he really did. There was so much there. He did take down a good number of those swarm hosts, but again, this game's going to continue to drag on until it's come down to the grind and it's been finished. There is no gas income on this base for our Zerg, so we actually have to see him be excruciatingly careful. Swarm hosts now targeting down this 6 o'clock-ish base, as I called it before. And it looks like we're actually going to see these Zealots possibly successfully take down this base, if not a good deal of workers. And ToD sends his force over here to basically intercept all of these units that are trying to go back and save it. But the fungal growth's just too powerful. I never would have imagined this is your ideal late-game composition, ladies and gentlemen. It looks like he's going to save the workers, the hatch. There's so many corruptors here that the Zealots could die just from the amount of corruption. They'll dry in the corruption fluids. But it looks like he gets the pocket upper right. And ToD's 6 o'clock-ish base there is still alive. He's going to go ahead and power through these spine crawlers. He's got more than enough forces to do it, especially when they're not being reinforced by things like Broodlords. The Observer fell in all of that, so that means we're not going to have ToD with the ability to actually spot these swarm hosts. So now he's actually thwarted. And it looks like that's the mistake that could have costed him the game. He actually clicked that Observer to go straight into the Spore Crawler. And now, I don't know. This is just a tap to the head. But this tap to the head will be, I think, more than enough to actually destroy the base. And this is one to the gut. So ToD, he's got a larger supply. He's got 144 to 131, but it's not combat supply. It's not army supply. It's not army count. He just lost his base down here, and he's re-expoing over here. His income is actually just about as sapped as his Zerg opponent. And he's willing to throw away Zealots to make sure that his Zerg opponent's income is non-existent. He's just got this as his third base. And now we actually have a huge forward engagement going down here for ToD. He's just like, I'm not afraid of you. I'm cutting into this infestation, and I'm removing it from the wastes of Akalon. Another Zealot run by going to happen here, just to make sure that there is no additional base going down here. No other hatch. Our Zerg has more than enough bait to throw down hatches non-stop for about 8 attempts, 9 attempts, 10 attempts, but you know, he just doesn't have the gas income to back what he's trying to do. ToD's bank, mostly right now, is all, again, Zealots. It looks like they're going to try and get some Storm Hosts here. It looks like if they're lucky, they're going to get this one. It's getting clicked around. Look at that, man. It's false. Yeah. This kind of reminds me of a minigame known as Zealot Frenzy. Behind this, I think we see, yes, these 3 Storm Hosts are going to try and poke away at this base here. And ToD's got to be aware of that. He has to know that something's going to happen. Something's up. We only have 4 Broodlords here, but my god, I never would have thought this kind of composition is so effective. ToD, once a member of Root Gaming, I'm hoping XMG is paying you more, bro. Giving me quite a show. tested you before with an ops position at the WCS EU qualifiers. You didn't really like my casting. It was like, but I couldn't really go super deep into analysis because I'm a little too focused on what's going on screen. That's my casting style. Now, all these lings being thrown away in a kind of desperate bid to take down this base from ToD, and it looks like we're going to see ToD get the snipe on this base yet again, but again, this is going to depend on this engagement point. Lots of corruptors are going to be thrown away. Everything here is 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, and so on and so forth. The fungal growth was absolutely beautiful, and I'm thinking this could be working just a little bit against our Zerg player. Beautiful blink on top of those Broodlords, all 4 of them, and it looks like we're going to see maybe all of them die. Oh, yeah, another blink forward, and that's just going to eliminate the Broodlords from the entire game. Of course, it doesn't really do ToD to build any hard counter units like Void Rays, because of course there's too many Corruptors here for him to get those to get the Void Ray count up and counting. Meanwhile, it looks like we're going to have our Zerg player going for this base yet again. He's going for the probes this time before he actually goes for that Expo. He gets all but... Okay, he gets every last one of them. Workers killed so big, and now we actually see, I think ToD is kind of in a losing position. That actually costed him a lot in the way of income. He's blinking out wherever he can. It's so crazy the way this game is going, guys. The Zealots, the Stalkers, the Zealots, everything, it's just not enough. Now we see ToD doing whatever he can to warp in whatever he can. His Zerg opponent actually has a much higher bank than he does, and I think the one thing that is going to make the difference here is simply the Ling numbers. They have adrenal glands, they have everything except the ability to morph into Banelings right now. ToD's just trying to buy time for those probes to get away. He's kind of stuck on 1 base income. His Zerg opponent finally got it all back up, but there is no detection here, so that's going to be the saving grace for ToD. He's going to try and take down this base, but unfortunately this Overseer will be more than ready to go. I think if he could possibly have gotten an Observer over there, it would have been great, because then he'd be able to detect his opponent. And there it is. ToD, once that DT started getting attacked, he just left the game. I mean, I don't really blame him, considering you just check the income right now, and you just check and see what he had to face. It made sense to me. Alright, so this is really one of those games. Ladies and gentlemen, if you guys liked what you saw here today, just go ahead and click on the subscribe button. This is Breaker, and I will see you guys next time. Okay?